Welcome to the Strength for the Day podcast, which is a daily Bible study with Dennis Fountain. We hope this time together will be challenging, sharpening, uplifting, encouraging, and strengthening to your Christian walk. Thank you for joining us, and we pray you are helped through today's study.
Hey, good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Strength for the Day. And we pick up this morning in 1 Kings chapter number 9. Our study right now is going through the days of the people of Israel through the book of 1 Kings. And of course, Solomon is now the king on the throne. David has passed off the scene. Solomon's been on the throne for a number of years now. And we come to verse number 10 of 1 Kings 9. And it says this, "Now it happened at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house, Hiram, the king of Tyre, had supplied Solomon with cedar and cypress and gold as much as he desired, that King Solomon then gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. Then Hiram went from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, but they did not please him. So he said, 'What kind of cities are these which you have given me, my brother?' And he called them the land of Kabul, as they are to this day. Then Hiram sent the king 120 talents of gold." And this is the reason for the labor force which King Solomon raised to build the house of the Lord, his own house, the Millo, the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer and burned it with fire, had killed the Canaanites who dwelt in the city, and had given it as a dowry to his daughter, Solomon's wife. So that verse is kind of a parenthesis. Why did Solomon build Gezer? Well, it's because Solomon built Gezer back up after Pharaoh had destroyed it. Solomon built Gezer, Lower Beth Horon, Baalath, and Tadmor in the wilderness in the land of Judah. All the storage cities that Solomon had, cities for his chariots and cities for his cavalry, and whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. All the people who were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, who were not of the children of Israel, that is, their descendants, who were left in the land after them, whom the children of Israel had not been able to destroy completely. From these people, Solomon raised forced labor, as it is to this day. But of the children of Israel, Solomon made no forced laborers, because they were men of war, and his servants, his officers, his captains, commanders of his chariots, and his cavalry. Others were chiefs of the officials who were over Solomon's work, 550 who ruled over the people who did the work. But, notice verse 24, "But Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house, which Solomon had built for her. Then he built the Millo. Now, 3 times a year, Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he had built for the Lord, and he burned incense with them on the altar that was before the Lord, so he finished the temple. King Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Ezion-Geber, which is near Elath on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. Then Hiram sent his servants with the fleet, seamen who knew the sea, to work with the servants of Solomon. And they went to Ophir and acquired 420 talents of gold from there and brought it to King Solomon." When you look at this passage, there's really not a ton of application that we could grab from this. I mean, you could probably look at Solomon and Hiram's gift exchange, and we could talk about Hiram's response to Solomon and the fact that Solomon was good, but Hiram's response was like, "Why are you giving me these cities? I deserve better," and the pride that he had. But then he recognizes, who he's speaking to and sends gifts to Solomon. We could talk about all of Solomon's achievements that are listed there, the cities that are built, and everything that is that's written about. But the one thing that I kind of, the one thing that I kind of find myself coming to in this passage is verse 24 and 25. We're going to read in I think it's 3 or 4 episodes from now, we will be in 1 Kings chapter number 11. And we will see Solomon's heart really turn from God and the reason of why it turned. But what I notice when I read this passage and others that we've read that have led up to this passage. Verse 24, it reminds us that Pharaoh's daughter is there, and that's significant because just about every time that the author writes about Solomon's heart being turned away from the Lord, Pharaoh's daughter is included in that as one who turned Solomon's heart away from the Lord. Pharaoh's daughter is listed as one who helped turn Solomon's heart away from God. And so in this passage, it's a reminder, hey, Pharaoh's daughter is still around. But then the very next verse, it says this, that 3 times a year Solomon offered burnt offerings, peace offerings on the altar he had built for the Lord. He burned incense with them on the altar that was before the Lord, so he finished the temple. There's kind of this, and by the way, Solomon was still offering offerings to the Lord, sacrificing to the Lord. Here's what I see when I look at this passage. While Solomon was accomplishing a lot, and while he is known for his wisdom and building and his leadership, I believe that Solomon was putting on a facade of worship and sacrifice to God, and yet he was pushing God out in the small decisions. We're going to read the verse. I'll read it right now because I will do a whole lesson on it. But it says in 1 Kings 11:1, but King Solomon loved many foreign women as well as the daughter of Pharaoh. And the idea is, verse number 4, it says that his wives turned his heart after other gods. I'm going to do a whole challenge on that in a few episodes, but today I just want to bring out this thought that as you read the life of Solomon and you read about his accomplishments, he was going 3 times a year to offer burnt offerings to the Lord and sacrifices to God, but the other 360, 2 days of the year, the other 360 days of the year, depending upon what calendar you use on the Jewish calendar, but the other 300 some odd days of the year, Solomon was not necessarily pursuing God. Here's why. Solomon allowed some things to come into his life to turn his heart from the Lord, but what I see is it wasn't an overnight decision for Solomon to walk away from God. It wasn't something where he just woke up one day and was like, I'm going to put all of these women before God. No, the Bible helps us understand that it was progressive. It was progressive. It was a decision of progression, that Solomon began leaving God out in the small things. And pretty soon he was only showing up to sacrifice, only coming certain times of the year. Now, again, I understand according to Hebrew law and all of that, there were certain times of the year that people sacrificed. And some think that's what this is leaning to, that he showed up for the sacrifices. But the idea is Solomon showed up for the big events, but he didn't allow the Lord to lead in the small decisions. And the challenge that I receive from that is very simple. I think sometimes we do the same thing in our modern day Christianity. We show up for God with the big events, but we don't love God in the small details. We don't allow him to lead in the small details. I'm going to speak to something that I'm not trying to become political or anything like that, but over the last couple of weeks, we have seen some major things take place in our country, and there have been a lot of Christians that just, allow certain events to cause them to be stirred and to get on fire. All right, God's going to be first in our country, and just watch what God does. But here we are, a few weeks removed from some major turning events in our country, and I wonder if believers still have the same desire to point to God as they did a few weeks ago. I remember many of you do. I remember 9/11, 2001, and the stir that caused in a lot of believers in our country of this is going to be the thing that turns us back to God. And a lot of Christians came out and showed up for big events because of that tragic day. And yet they showed up for the big things, but many of them still did not allow God to lead in the small areas of life, and things just went back to the way they were. I think that we are all guilty of that at times, that we, like Solomon, we show up for the sacrifice, but we don't allow God to lead in the details. And so my challenge for you today is to seek the Lord and allow him to lead in the small decisions of your life. Lord, would you lead in how I respond to my family today? God, would you lead in my conversation with my classmates or my work coworkers today? God, would you lead in how I respond and how I talk today to the people at the gym or the coffee shop or the restaurant or the grocery store? Lord, I just desire that you would direct my decisions. God, show me your wisdom. God, help me not to just, for our day and age, I could say it this way, help me not just show up on Sundays, but God, help me to be a follower of Jesus Monday through Saturday. And I look at Solomon's life and I see this is, again, it's just showing us his accomplishments and everything. But those two verses stand out to me. Here, Solomon's showing up for the sacrifices, but all the while his heart is being slowly turned away from the Lord because of the small decisions being ignored. And so I want to encourage you, give God the small decisions today and watch him work. All right, have a great day, and we will come back to our study tomorrow. We'll pick up in 1 Kings chapter 10, and we're going to see Solomon still do some things for the Lord, and tomorrow is one of those episodes, and I look forward to sharing it with you then. Have a great day.